Hey guys, I'm Jill Powell and I am here today with Arliana. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And we are going to show you how to do this beautiful complexion on perfect skin. Essentially, she's got great skin, maybe a little dry, but other than that, perfect skin. So you want to know how to get perfect skin on perfect skin? Stay tuned. Okay, so we're gonna jump right into skin, and you said you're really dry right now. This weather, man, I am so dry. So we're gonna use a moisture mask, something that just has a lot of hydration. If you're really dry, definitely double up on a moisture serum or something so that you can get that hydration in your skin. Makeup will not look good if you are not hydrated. And I always use my fingers when I'm working on other people. I feel like you can really get a feel for their face and their texture. You've got really beautiful skin.
Thank you.
So I'm just massaging this into her skin, getting it all over. So the biggest thing we want is hydration here. If you're dry, we want to make sure that there's no dry areas. We don't want the makeup to stick funny or look cakey anywhere. So we just want our skin nice and prepped. How does that feel?
Refreshing.
Yeah. We definitely need eye cream. I put eye cream on everybody. Doesn't matter how old you are. We got to keep our under eyes looking fresh and beautiful. So pick an eye cream that works for you. If you have dark circles, definitely something with caffeine in it that can speed up the blood flow around the eye area to kind of push that extra blood outside. If you have puffiness, that will help. Caffeine will help as well. There's a ton of different eye creams you can choose from. I always apply it with my ring finger. It applies the least amount of pressure, so that skin under the eye is really delicate and you don't want to tug it too much. And one thing we don't want to forget when we're prepping is the lips. You always want to apply some sort of chapstick, lip balm. This one is the Bite Beauty Lip Mask. I love it for the added hydration, but you want to really let that set in while you're doing skin and makeup so that by the time you're putting lips on, they're nice and hydrated and plumped. You don't have any chappiness or dry skin. If you need to exfoliate the lips, you can also use a lip exfoliator or a lip scrub. Let's go ahead and blend. Does that feel good? Okay, so we have her nice and prepped. This is where you can go in to use a primer if you want the makeup to stay, if makeup doesn't stay on you, or if you have pores or anything like that. So do you use a primer every day?
Not every day.
Not every day. You have good skin.
Thank you.
So she may or may not need a primer. You're a little bit more dry. So if I did do a primer, I'd probably do a hydrating primer, but I think I'm just gonna go into foundation. You have beautiful skin and I don't really wanna cover up too much. Okay, so I'm gonna go in with, this is the Ilia foundation. It's True Skin Serum Foundation. So what I love about it, it's a natural brand. So for those of you that don't love parabens or toxins or anything in your makeup, Ilia has this foundation, and their brand essentially is all natural. So it's good ingredients, it's good for your skin, plus it performs. So I love a natural brand that can actually perform. And I haven't tried this color on you yet. Just looking, it might be a little bit dark. So I'm gonna start on your forehead because that's where we're gonna want the deepest color. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And you naturally have some darkness up here and then you're a little bit lighter through the center. So I like to match what you've got going on because then it looks the most natural instead of creating just one color all over your face. So this color is Selena. I like the color that's going on your forehead. I'm gonna add a little bit along your cheeks and then we're gonna do a little bit lighter under your eyes and through the center of your face. So I'm just gonna add this color right through your cheeks. And I'm using just like a small synthetic, kind of fluffier brush. This one's by BH Cosmetics. It is number 6. It's from a set that I got and I'm really loving this set, so. All right, so I'm just putting this along your cheeks. It looks really pretty. This foundation's great. It literally is like a moisture serum, but then it has some coverage in there as well. I'm gonna turn your chin just a little bit this way. So it literally just melts right into the skin. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but seriously, it looks so beautiful. It doesn't have any like texture or dryness. It just really like blends right into the skin, but then offers some color and some coverage. This foundation's great if you are like dry, even oily skin can use it, but I really like it on a dry skin tone because, excuse me, not skin tone. Dry is not a tone. Skin type. So I like it on a dry skin type because it's really, sometimes dry skin, if you put something too matte, it just looks so dry and cakey and heavy. And then like later in the day, you're like, oh. So this one's just going to melt right into the skin, hydrate, but also cover. Looks really good on you. So we're gonna go in with my Born This Way Multi-Sculpting Concealer. I love this guy. I literally have them in probably 8 colors. I love it because the doe foot is just really easy. It's basically like a concealer and a foundation, or like a full coverage foundation / concealer. And it's like multi-use. I use it as a foundation a lot because you just can do such a sheer amount on the skin. I love my sheer layers. It just looks really natural on the skin. So I don't need a lot of it. I'm gonna put this along the perimeter and then through the center of her face. So I'm using that same brush, and we're just going to perfect the rest. And this one's golden beige. So it's just a little bit lighter. I just want it to really blend with her neck color. And then turn for me slightly. And she had told me earlier she has a little bit of scarring right in here, so we want to make sure that we cover that up nicely. And then we're just going to get the bottom part. Also going to go over just under her brows, make sure everything matches really nicely. All right, so we have pretty much perfected her skin. And she had a tiny little blemish above her lip, so I'm going over her lip line as well. Sometimes those are really hard when you have, and I have one right now on the side. You can just see them. You know what I mean? It's like right there, you like talk to somebody and you look at their mouth, and you're like, really? So I'm covering it up. You really didn't need a lot of coverage, but it's hard around the upper lip area because you don't want to put too much foundation. So definitely go in with something more full coverage so you wear less of it. Because if you have something that doesn't cover, then you're going to have to layer it like thick. I don't know. My analogy for that, I always have analogies. That's what I do. Is if you have like a see-through fabric and you don't want to see through it, you have to layer like 10 layers of that see-through fabric, right?
Yes.
Or if you have like blackout curtains, they're just like dense and thick. You just have one layer and it blocks out everything. So that's the difference. You want to have a heavier, like more, I guess that, not heavier coverage, like, yeah, heavier coverage, right? Yeah. Heavier coverage works for me. You want to have a heavier coverage so you use less of it rather than a sheer coverage where you have to layer too much. So fuller coverage, so some sort of concealer with a lot of coverage, and we are going to go in and cover that little blemish like it was never there. Okay, so now we're gonna go in and do some shaping and some contouring. So everyone always wants to know how to contour. There's so many ways you can contour. There's creams, there's foundations, there's powders, there's bronzers, whatever. So I'm gonna contour with a bronzer. This is the NARS bronzer palette. So I believe this is Laguna. Yep. So it's great because it has a bronzer, a blush, and a highlighter. So really great in your makeup bag, something that you can use all 3 colors and have your complexion additions, I guess. So we're gonna give her a little bit of cheek. She's got a beautiful cheekbone right here. And I can see the shading already, so I'm just gonna follow her natural shading, which is right in here. And I'm taking an angled blush brush. It's kind of my favorite for contouring. I just really like how it applies. And I'm just kind of getting it where her cheekbone is, and then blending it out. I don't want too strict of a contour for her. I don't want her to have like lines on her face, so I'm just creating that natural dimension by blending. Really pretty. So I'm just going to accentuate that, go right along her cheekbone. And I'm doing like small little strokes, a little bit of back and forth, just to pop that cheekbone out. I like it. I'm going to do a little bit along the bottom of her chin, just to create some consistency. She doesn't really need much along her jawline. She's got a good jaw. I'm going to do a little bit along her forehead. So right along the top. Same color. This is Laguna. And she had that natural kind of shading from the sun. So she was a little bit lighter in here, a little bit darker along the perimeter, which is very natural. So however the sun naturally hits your face, that's kind of what you want to bring back. So I'm adding it back in. And I want to keep kind of this area a little bit lighter. So in the center of her forehead, just to keep dimension and everything looking good. So we'll get her other side. So I'm just going to, again, work with her natural cheekbone, which is right in here. And just really small, kind of feathery strokes, just to get that shading in there. So right in here. And I can feel for her cheekbone, so her cheekbone's right there, and I'm just shading right underneath it. And continue on that side of her chin. Cool. I think that looks good. Just for fun, I'm going to do a little bit of contouring on her nose. She doesn't really need it, but sometimes it's good to do a little bit of shading if you're taking pictures or going out or whatever. Sometimes it looks really nice in the photos. Don't do it too heavy, please, guys. Like, you do not want to walk around with these crazy lines on your nose because you'll look like a freak in real life. But in your photos, you might look good. So let's kind of create that balance. I'm going to show you how to do it naturally to make you look good in photos, but to also make you look good in person. So I'm using like a small, it's basically like a large shader brush. It's too big for your eye, so I like to use it for shading or for powder like around the nose. So I'm just going to kind of give a really subtle bronzer along the outsides just to create some dimension. And where I put that brush first, a lot of color dropped off, so I definitely want to make sure it's nice and soft. Have you ever contoured your nose before?
I have.
You have?
Yes.
For an event or for daily, or what do you do it for?
Whenever I'm working upstairs at my job, it's fine dining, so I do put a little bit more makeup on.
Nice. I'll have to come visit you. Okay, so we are keeping the center just her natural foundation color, and then I'm just contouring a little bit on the outsides. And I'm using my finger to soften it because I don't want it to be too strong. And then you always want to step back and kind of see what you're working with. Do a little bit more right here. And I like to work in sheer layers, so I'm building it rather than putting too much on and having to take it off. A little bit on the tip. So now I'm going to go in with a little bit of concealer, and I want to brighten under her eyes and kind of perfect anything that we did not perfect with foundation. So this one is NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer. Again, I love these. They set really nicely. They're great for dry skin, for oily skin. They just look like skin. They're really pretty, so go ahead and look up for me. So I'm just going to brighten all right in here, inner corner, under eye, all the way from the lash line. She doesn't really have a ton of darkness, but I want to create some like highlighting essentially with concealer. So I didn't do a ton of differentiation with her foundation colors. So we're just going to brighten with concealer. And anytime you have the center of the face like really perfected, everything else just looks really nice. So I always want to make sure the center of the face has a perfect canvas. So we're going to get right under the eyes, really close to the lash line, right in that inner corner. And I'm just using a synthetic concealer brush. This one, it has a little fluff to it. It has a little angle. It's by Sigma. It's their Bake Precision P89. But I just like something that can just kind of pack on concealer, but also blend it out. And then I'm going to take the same concealer and just go straight down the center of her nose, which will add a natural highlight. And then we'll just make sure that that other blemish is completely covered. Maybe a little bit right here. So we're going to apply just a tiny bit of blush. She has some color in her cheeks from the bronzer, but I'm just going to add a tiny bit of blush. And I like to mix. I love palettes because I can mix. So I've got some neutral shades, some brighter pinks, peaches, a little bit of everything. So I'm going to mix a little bit of this one, which is Blush Baby by MAC. And I'm just going to start with that. This is like a kind of a dense blush brush. To be honest, two of my blush brushes were dirty. So we are using the Morphe M529, which typically I would use this for like a highlighter or a powder, but it's what I had available, so we're making it work. So because the bristles on this brush are more dense, I only tapped it like twice. You don't want to put too much product on. It's better to layer and build than it is to have to take away. So I'm turning towards slightly. So right on her cheekbone is where I'm going to apply this blush, and I'm just kind of building it from like directly on her cheekbone down to her apples and then back up. And again, this brush is dense, so because they're dense, it applies a lot of color. So I don't need to grab too much color from the blush. I want to keep it nice and soft. This one's just like a nice natural flush. Again, I like to look at their lip color to see what tones are in their lip color, because that will provide one of the more natural colors of blush for your skin tone and for your face shape. Not face shape, skin tone. Yeah. So she has her basic complexion on. I'm just going to perfect her brows. She's got really good brows. I do see like a couple little holes, so I want to fix those. And you said you do your brows on a daily basis, right? So do you like them really strong or more natural?
More natural.
More natural, perfect. So yeah, I'm going to start with the little holes that I'm seeing. And I'm just using an angled brush. This one's MAC 266, kind of my tried and true favorite angle brush. There's a bunch of angle brushes out there. And I'm using the Laura Mercier, no, I'm not. I'm using the Anastasia brow powder. This one is taupe. So I'm using the deeper color, and I'm just going to basically place my brush right at the base and flick up. And by doing this, you're creating that nice strong base, which will give you like a sharp brow, but also keep it really natural by flicking up. So you want to perfect the bottom. I always like when the bottom's like really nice and clean and the tail end is really nice and clean, but then the beginning right here can be a little bit more natural. I'm just adding a little bit of product, and I'm going very lightly. Just filling in a couple little sparse areas. Do you use a pencil or a powder? Or?
I use a powder.
A powder.
A wax and a powder.
So that's a good question. A lot of people don't know how to use brow waxes. Do you use it to keep your powder on, or do you use it to set the hair?
I put my my brush in the wax and then the powder. And I put like very, very little wax, or else it won't look very natural.
Yeah, and that just keeps it like, almost gives you like a pomade type. Perfect. Yeah, there's so many ways to use like those duos that have the wax. So I actually have it right here. And in this one, it's called Brow Primer. So yeah, you can mix them together. You can put it on first and then layer the powder on top. Or you can also use the wax just to set the brow hair. So I wanted to fill in the top of her brow, but I squared it off a little too much. So I'm just going to take a brush and kind of brush it through so that I get that really natural finish. But as I was saying, you can use the wax to kind of use it to set the brow hair, almost like a brow gel would. So now that we've perfected her brows, I just want to give a little bit of glow to the skin. I love that dewy, highlighted beautiful glowy look. So she's already glowing because I did not use any powder. This Ilia foundation is just really pretty. It looks like your skin, but just to finish it off, I want to add a little bit of glow. So I'm going back in with that NARS palette that had the blush and the bronzer and the highlighter. And I'm using the Morphe M501. It's like a fluffy kind of big blending brush, but I really love it for highlighter because it's going to apply just a little bit exactly where I want it. And I'm going right on the top of her cheekbone. Oh my gosh, this highlighter is so pretty. It's really pretty. All right, so I laid it down exactly where I want it, and then I'm taking the brush and just kind of doing circular motions and blending it out, getting a little bit more, and then turn towards me. So right on the top of her cheekbone right there. I'm gonna lay it down, and then I'm gonna blend it out. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty. And this just gives that beautiful glow. Might as well just do a tiny bit on the bridge of the nose. Tiny, tiny, tiny. Tiny, tiny, tiny. There we go. I love it. Let me see. Oh yeah. I can see that glow. So pretty. Okay, so just to recap, she's got such beautiful skin, so she really didn't need a lot, but we started off and we prepped your skin because it was a little bit more dry, so used a moisture mask as a moisturizer, eye cream, definitely a lip mask just to keep her nice and hydrated. And then we skipped the primer today because again, she was dry, so I wanted to make sure that everything looked really beautiful and just like skin. So I went straight in with the Ilia Serum Foundation and we put that along her forehead and her cheeks because it was a little bit deeper of a color. And then I went in with the Too Faced Multitasking Sculpting Concealer, multi-use I think it's called, just along the jawline, under the eyes. I did go back in with a little bit more NARS concealer under the eyes to really brighten. We contoured with the NARS palette in Laguna, so the Laguna bronzer, we contoured along her cheeks, a little bit on her nose, the top of her forehead, and the bottom of her chin, just to really accentuate and shape her face in the way that she wants. We finished her brows with the Anastasia brow powder, and then I wanted to highlight a little bit, so we went in with that palette again from NARS and just a little bit of highlighter along the tops of her cheekbones, the center of her nose, and this is just a beautiful, basic, everyday complexion look. Thanks again for watching my video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment below what you want to see next. All of the products used in my video are also linked below. And if you want to see more, follow me anywhere at Jill Powell Glam. Thanks again.